The Street Philosopher is a historical novel. It's set in the 1850s and it has two chronological strands to the narrative, one of which is set during the Crimean War of 1854-6 and the other is set in Manchester in 1857. The Crimean strand follows a team of civilian war correspondents as they go to the war zone with the Allied armies at the commencement of the invasion of the peninsula and the march of the army along the coast to storm the fortified port of Sebastopol. The Manchester strand catches up with one member of this reporting team who is a vastly changed man. He's living in a garret in incredibly reduced circumstances. He's eking out a very kind of basic level of survival as a street philosopher, a kind of low-grade social commentator on a very humble Manchester local paper. And immediately the question that you have to ask is, what has caused the change in this man? What has happened to him? What traumas has he undergone in this war to bring him down so low? There's a seemingly random act of street violence in which this street philosopher becomes embroiled that makes him realise that his past is returning to haunt him and that old friends and enemies alike are gathering in Manchester and that old Crimean scores are about to be settled. The more I read about the Crimean War, the more that it drew me in, the more that I found it interesting. The point at which I knew I had to write about it was when I was reading an account of the first major battle of the campaign, the Battle of the Alma, where the British line was advancing towards the Russian cannon and the Russians had miscalculated the range and they fired too early and the cannonballs, rather than striking the British soldiers, bounced in front of them at such a speed that the soldiers could then step out of the way and the bullets would pass through them harmlessly. And there was laughter in the ranks when this happened, a massive roar of laughter. But of course the soldiers had to keep on marching and then they had to march into the range of the cannon and bloody slaughter ensued. And this struck me as such a potent image of just the sheer absurdity of war in this period, but in any period, that I knew that I had to write about it then. At the moment I'm working on a book that is set in roughly the same period as Street Philosopher. It could be considered a kind of loose companion piece, but it's set in London and it focuses around the short-lived arms factory that was set up in Pimlico by the legendary American arms manufacturer Samuel Colt, the self-proclaimed inventor of the revolver. And it concerns Colt's efforts to establish this gunworks, which has an unprecedented level of technical sophistication in the world, can mass-produce six-shooting revolvers, which are a fearsome addition to warfare at that time, and then sell them to the British government in the build-up to the Crimean War. So it's about political conspiracy at the highest level. It's about the extremely muddy ethics of arms dealing. And there's a lot of betrayal, backstabbing, that sort of thing. And it culminates in a bit of gunfighting in Westminster.